Now, for our next session, we're going to take a look at composable commerce. Now, retailers know composable commerce offers flexibility and agility for next-level engagement and profitability. However, many hesitate due to the perceived complexity. In this session, we'll show you how one company made the transition smoothly and successfully. Please welcome to stage Devang Modi, the VP of Digital Strategy at Bausch Lomb. Devang, come on up.
So we're going to talk through how MedTech, life sciences, vision care, complex OTC product company with 160, 70-year history building commerce, right? These views or opinions are expressed in this presentation are of mine, not for BNL, so that's our policy, just have to share that. So my quick background, I come from consulting, management consulting background, worked in pharmaceuticals, life sciences for almost 20 years. I've been with BNL, Bausch Health for almost 6 years, and I've taken this new role for digital strategy. So let's start with the problem statement, and I think this is going to resonate a lot with you, right? And so complexities, right? We start with multiple business units with similar customers. So we are eye care company. We have contact lenses, we have pharmaceutical products, we have surgical devices, and I say it's simplified. When the child is born, they've been given a generic antibiotic drops too. When you get a cataract surgery and post-cataract surgery, you need our products, right? So BNL is connected there. Our digital commerce capabilities were varying by country and region, right? And you can see D2C, B2B2C, B2B, and on top of it, B2B2C, right? It gets so complex. Where we have distributors, we have needs for those distributors sell in the country, and we have the marketplaces like Amazon and Alibaba to support as well. Interestingly, the selling model for each of them also differs, right? So some US has more regulations. You need a prescription for getting contact lenses. In some countries in Europe, you don't need a prescription. Some countries in Asia, you can buy contact lenses directly on Amazon, right? So that's kind of variabilities that we have. Support a product catalog and pricing and promotion by channels, like Amazon, Instagram, TikTok, etc. Complex distribution models, right? We have distributors, we have 3PLs, we have direct distribution ourselves, and those are not consistently available globally. So that's kind of complexities. Multiple systems across the EU and country, as you can imagine. I'm sure it happens in your company too. 170-year companies. We have old systems sitting there in different countries. They are not consistent. They don't have same product catalog. Pricing, it's not set up correctly. And how do you go about that problem, right? That's kind of challenge in multiple countries. On top of it, we need to be HIPAA compliant, data privacy, all the regulation of US and globally, PCI and other regulations, right? So need to implement, I'm sure that you have to go through similar in healthcare, especially HIPAA in US is important. The next challenge was our CEO was looking for, how do you create the best eye care company and drive the customer experience and create the loyalty. As I said it earlier, we get somebody from born to the cataract surgery, right? And how do you create that loyalty for BNL? That was the challenge. And then other area, which is we need to deliver this quick. You can't wait 6 months, 6 years. That's not going to happen. We need it now. And we need this scalable, flexible solution. So 0 to beta in 4 months. Right? So, and you'll be like, what? How did you do it? So we'll talk through some of that. The key is establishing cross-functional team, right? We started and the date is wrong here, but it's September 2023 to start looking and saying, hey, what do we need? What are the issues and challenges which I described, right? What are we looking, what is the end state going to look like, and create a blueprint, right? So what are the opportunities, what are the business case, what can you get from the customer experience perspective, how can you create royalty, how do you create what is the revenue that's going to look like through these platforms, what is operational efficiencies, and can you actually improve the margins, right? So I'm sharing what's coming next, but it's the most important part is to go to CEO and saying, here's the revenue, here's the uplift, here's the loyalty, and here's your net margin improvement, right? That's kind of what we worked on first. From there, we created a roadmap. How does this look like? How are we going to scale this? And where do we start from? Where are we going to get the best value if you implement it? And what kind of business case we're going to pick? And we started feature development in January 2024. And during the last 3 months of the year, 2023, we looked at the multiple vendors, evaluated multiple things. And surprisingly, I was not even considering, or we were not considering, even composable commerce. I didn't even know what composable commerce was or what is headless, right? So we were new, but we moved very quickly to figure out where to go. Feature development, we established an agile approach. We had 22 groups, right? Legal to compliance to procurement to IT to infrastructure to security. Everybody's in one team and created a pod. That's one of the reasons why we could do this fast. Marketing, even general manager of the business unit is part of this process. So every 2 weeks, we do design sessions. Every 2 weeks, we have decisions made, and we actually show what was delivered and developed. And then we show it to our executive leaders what we built, right? So it's all the way buy-in, and then every step of the way, they are seeing what's getting built and delivered. We did a beta launch with a small group to make sure end-to-end systems are working. And I call it plumbing is working, right? That's when we want to make sure our invoicing, our payments, everything is working through all our systems. And we've been enhancing system with the new features and functions that we looked at and tested in marketplace. And we are about to launch actually in public launch, right? And in this, we did complexity-wise 3 different distributors who are connected. So based on the doctor or based on their requirements, it goes to different distributors. We did a direct distribution as well. And we picked a B2B2C case, which we'll talk a little bit more about it. But that's kind of the approach we took. So this is what we defined in 2023, right? What do we want, right? So we need this different types of channels, and the most complex is B2B2C. Where you need a prescription to get a product to the consumer, right? So we kind of built out what are the different models we need, and what are the different models can be deployed using the technology we built out, right? So potential combination might be different by region, by business unit. As I said, certain countries you can do direct to consumers for contact lenses. Some countries you only do B2B. It's only sold through the pharmacy. So how do you create a platform that can be scaled and reused from what we built from the complexity, right? And that's kind of what we started with, saying, let's start with B2B2C. We're going to build this out, and then from there, we take it to the rest of the globe and business unit. A little bit of technology, right? So we went and saying, all right, what are we going to take here, right? What are we going to build? And we created some sort of guiding principle, right? Some of them are here. Modular. Why do we need a modular? We need to plug and play to solve multiple distributors. We need a plug and place based on the marketplace, on the where we are and where the systems are available for our IT systems. API driven, so we can quickly develop and switch out the vendors if we need to. Cloud-based, obviously we need to scale so we can go out, and headless, so allows us to, and there are a lot of good ideas floating around right now that we want to actually expose commerce through our technologies in devices. So we can actually expose this easily and simply. We use commerce tools. There was a selection made based on some of the needs. We use Microsoft Azure for all the core infrastructure, and Next.js for creating custom UI, UX, and then Stripe for payments. So what are the benefits out of this, right? So when you start looking at it, it looks really simple, right? Is customer centricity. How do we create this so we have all customer in one place, regardless of the channels that we're working on it? So we have one place to go, look at the customer history, and now we can build out AI, ML, whatever we want to do from here, from commerce perspective. Flexibility and scalable, right, as the key requirement was there. Now I can scale Next.js. I can have a custom D2C site. I can have custom B2B site for the needs. And if I want to scan something from the device, I can actually expose my product catalogs there. So that's kind of thinking fast cycles. Actually, I think there is a misconception that some of this composable architecture takes longer. Actually, it actually speeds up the process. We can plug and play where we need to and find alternates quickly. And cost efficiency. Overall, we were looking at to make sure how we not create the technical debt and create too many technologies that is not used. And we went deliberately each area and figured out what we need to pick for what reason, et cetera, right? So that's kind of the thought process was. So with that said, I'm going to invite Michael from commercetools.
Awesome. So we thought the last 10 minutes were going to be a little bit more California casual and sort of talk about a bit more the intimate process of how Devang and his team approach this composable approach, this digital transformation, and kind of like go a little deeper. And so you've seen a lot of the context, you've seen a lot of the why and the what, but we want to go more into the how. So first question really around, you've mentioned Bausch Lomb is about 170 years old, so lots of culture, lots of tradition, lots of legacy tech. How do you win over the hearts and minds of your leadership, the culture, like folks in the hands-on keyboard kind of like ranks, but also C-level? Like how do you build up to this digital transformation?
Yeah, I think there are many areas that you need to start with. One is starting with very clear goal. What is the reason why we are doing this, right? So it's especially C-level. They are looking at profitability. They are looking at margins. They are looking at revenue. So making sure that is very clear why we want to do this and what's the reason. The second with that, it's very important same time, is what's in it for the patient and what's in it for the doctor, right? That's kind of comes along. And if we can think through that and provide that information, why are we making this better for them? I think that was an easy way to sell internally to a lot of stakeholders. The third thing, a lot of people talk about Agile and doing Agile. I've been doing it for 7-8 years. But creating a pod and getting the teams who are going to work on this project aligned and actually explaining why we are doing it, what's the reasoning, what are the outcomes, what are we going to gain out of it, and if we don't do it, what is going to happen as well, and creating that pods and creating that culture that we are working as a one team to deliver this product, not a product that will be reused in future, right? I think that's the differentiator.
Right. And so you mentioned there's a lot of myth and misconception around like what's composable, time to market, things of that nature. Like I feel tech personas like CIOs, CTOs, IT directors, they get composable, they get headless, they get all the fancy buzzwords that we're hearing in the market these days. But it's very hard to deduct or like infer the business benefits. Like how did you sell it to the C-level? Like how did they understand the technology, but also the business benefits that it's generating?
Yeah, I think again, going back to the requirements, going back to the problem statements that I shared, saying here's the things that we want to achieve, and what we really at the end of the day came out to is how do we be flexible, scalable, and as we start looking at the different vendors, we found that that is not an option. And as I said, I didn't even know what composable architecture was, right. What was headless architecture. And I drilled down, and as I understood, and I think the first question after the presentation with CEO was, is this scalable? Is it going to work in other countries? Are we doing it one time? And do we have to reinvest again, right? And I think now new CEOs and everyone gets it, that's the question. And I think it was actually, for me, it was easier at that point.
Right.
Because we could say, hey, we are using the latest technology that can be scaled, easily mix and match with what we have internally that are older system. But also use the latest technologies there where we can do very complex payment processing, et cetera.
And you mentioned the first product. So the first product is really, in this case, your B2B2C use case, right? And you also mentioned this was the hardest one. Like sometimes I feel it's almost like a philosophical question. Are you going to do the easy projects first to build confidence and then do the big kahuna project? Or are you going to do the heavy one or the heavy lifting first? Like talk us through your thinking around what to do first, why this, and what it enables you to do afterwards.
I think I'm thinking about two ways to look at it, right? So one is you could have done easy route and start with something very simple and deliver the value for those projects. Could be D2C, right? I think for us the key was thinking-wise was a scalability globally. We need a one platform that we can scale. We had to be in this area to win. our customers are asking that we need to do something. So it's customer voice was more important at that level than actually what we wanted, and it was difficult. So it needed more investment. It needed a little bit more time than what this took us. But we took that reason. It was really customer feedback. When we did a blueprint, that's where we focus on what is the need, internal stakeholders as well as external stakeholders, make sure that is prioritized.
Okay.
And sorry, I'm just going to say, that actually got buy-in from the business unit because they understood it's coming from the customer, right? And it's a customer experience, so it's easier to sell through it.
Right. And so you said 0 to better in 4 months. Like, talk us through the process and kind of like calling you out here. Like, if it was really so complex, like how were you able to do it in 4 months?
Yeah. So I think it's amazing how agile, and if you structure it right, you could actually get the teams to work together. Mm-hmm. So starting with very basic, right? So compliance to legal, to getting them aligned on saying what are the key requirements that you have for this platforms, getting business aligned and marketing aligned, what are the needs for that, going out and doing a lot of users testing and saying what are the need for doctors, what are the need for the patients, aligning those first was critical. Then every week, and I'm breaking it down very details, you have a design sessions weekly to get feedback from outside and internally and align those design, how you're building the platform. You have weekly sessions with legal compliance and procurement, data security, data privacy to align them on this is what we are building, so they see what we're building, get a feedback right there, and get that input into our build phase. So that was, I think, a game changer, because that's where most of the time you get stuck, right? And getting a pre-alignment saying, these are the things that's gonna come, these are the opportunities, these are the challenges that we will face, and how do we solve that, right? So it is still, I think, a product mindset, focus on delivery. I think the other important part, I think it was an aha moment. First few weeks were questionable for a lot of people. When we did a first sprint showcase, where we showed the actual working prototype, there was silence, and then I got a lot of emails and I'm shocked that we are actually here in 2 weeks. And I think that is what changed the mindset after the second week. So I think a rigor that you need for agile, I think it's needed. Rigor absolutely from buy-in from the top who actually supports you to get there. And if you have the whole team together, makes a big difference.
Yeah. And so you're already alluding a little to this kind of like agile mindset. How do you go about testing agile, building an MVP, constant testing and showcasing?
Yeah, so again, I'm a little bit of technologist, but I have moved out of technology as well. So, interestingly, showcase is actually the time in Agile that you actually show what you delivered in last 2 weeks or 3 weeks. What we did was actually, there are automated testing for developers. We also had for product owners like me, who will be getting the user stories completed and verifying that what is built and deployed in development environment. So we were every 2 weeks seeing actually what's getting delivered, right? So I would say first 3 to 4 weeks, I would say we had about 40 to 60 large risks and issues to resolve.
Right.
And I just got off call at 12 o'clock today, and every day's call, daily meetings with everyone and saying, what are the problems? What do we need to solve? Let's make a decision. I think the key is making decisions on those, and may not be 100% perfect. You get to about 80%, but that was a key, right? Solving that. At today's call, there were about 8 items.
Right. And so you're talking about this B2B2C product. How are you now scaling to B2B, direct to consumer, and also what's next?
Yeah, so I think our goal is next 2 to 3 months, stabilize, make sure everything is working, scale it, get the user feedback, improve it more. From there, I think our goal is, we're looking at China, which we'll talk a little bit, very interesting market and how that works, and how do we scale there, right? So we'll like if you see here a little bit, right, like it's a marketplace-based model actually. Flagship stores are not there, commercetools or, you don't launch Bausch.com actually, right? You launch, and there might be some companies that will make sense, but it is driven through Pinduoduo, Tmall, and JD.com, or et cetera, right? And that's kind of the marketplace. And fast commerce is coming through very quickly. I'm shocked, and some of you might be shocked to hear, contact lenses are delivered using fast commerce today. in China, right? So it's a completely different environment, so you need to think through it, how you're going to deploy this. But we are considering commerce tools, including to deploy the same environment, and can we do is pricing catalog, pricing, promotions across all these channels.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting for us too, because we intentionally build out a mainland China like commerce platform. So we're the only platform of that new generation of platforms that really operates from mainland China, and it's interesting how our customers, I think in the initial phase, like specifically the Western companies that want to like go into China and execute in China, how they want to scale out. But that's very interesting.
I think that was it. So thank you very much for your time, and thanks Commerce Next to inviting me. And if you have any questions, we'll be at Commerce Tool booth.